You're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College in Garden City, New York. I'm Bill McIntyre, here with Shawn Novatt on another edition of this week's Long Island News, a news show that brings you news stories about Long Island and about Long Islanders. And with us today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Bruce Blakeman, who is in line to be the next Nassau County Executive.
Bill and Shawn, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm sure you're very busy getting situated. I understand that really all the votes have not yet been counted. Is that correct?
Yes, they will go through the process in the next couple of days of counting all the absentee ballots. Okay. Those are the only ones that are outstanding. So we're feeling pretty good. We've got a sizable lead, and by all accounts, from every political operative I've spoken to, we should win. So I'm feeling very, very confident.
Very good.
Speaking of political operatives you've spoken to, I assume you have not spoken to Laura Curran, the current county executive?
No, not yet. This is a process that, she feels she needs to go through, and I respect that. And when the time comes, I'm sure we'll have a very pleasant and cordial conversation.
That's well, that's good. We've spoken to Laura Curran quite a few times during her administration. We hope to talk to you quite a bit as you go about your duties and your business too. Taking over. It's actually what's interesting is that the WHPC is owned by Nassau County. So you kind of would be our new boss.
Well, listen, you're doing a good job, and my opinion is if it ain't broke, don't
fix it. Yeah, right. Well, I was going to ask you what kind of music you like to hear, since we play.
Well, I have a very eclectic taste in music. I listen to classic rock. I listen to country music. Mm-hmm. I listen to rap. I like alternative music. I like new wave.
Wow.
I like rhythm and blues very much. Mm-hmm. The only thing I don't like is what I would call, hardcore jazz, where there's no beginning, middle, or end to the song.
Ah, yeah.
That's not my cup of tea. But pretty much, I have, my kids turned me on to rap music, so I even listen to that.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Do you play an instrument at all?
I am probably the worst singer and musician you've probably come across. It's definitely not one of my talents.
Well, yeah, we need listeners too. That's
exactly.
Wow, that's very good.
I know Laura sings. I've heard her sing before.
Oh, have you? Oh, I don't know if I've ever heard her sing. Wow.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. I got to ask her about that. So what do you see are the challenges that you're going to be looking at when, I guess it's January 1st, you would man the helm?
Yeah, so first of all, we have to find a solution to the broken reassessment system. So that's going to be a priority for me.
Okay.
Obviously, I want to look at ways to run government more efficiently and look at ways to create economic opportunity and create jobs, which I believe will increase the tax base and therefore relieve some of the tax burden on people who, have high property taxes. You can only cut so much from the budget because so much of Nassau County's budget are unfunded mandates by the state and federal government.
Right.
So after you cut to the bone, you then have to look at ways to increase the tax base. And economic development is something that I have a lot of experience in. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I'll be focusing on. And I want to work with our new district attorney, Annie Donnelly, on making this a safer county. We have some real issues, and most of those issues are caused by Albany with respect to law enforcement and crime issues in Nassau County. Right. So that needs to be addressed as well.
Right. That's kind of we were getting mixed messages from the idea that we need to cut crime and then you hear the other idea that we're the safest city in the country.
Yeah, that's complete nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
We have a great police department, but they've been handcuffed, pun intended,
Mm-hmm.
by crazy laws, one of which is the so-called Bail Reform Act, which I call the get-out-of-jail-free card,
Right.
that has made law enforcement much more difficult. And it's not just any county, it's regional.
Mm-hmm.
It's Nassau County, Suffolk County, Westchester, New York City. So
Right.
crime has been going up. Shootings are up 39%.
In the state? Is that statewide?
No, that's countywide.
Really?
So we just had another shooting the other night here in Nassau County. It's become an epidemic. The car break-ins, the shoplifting, bank robberies. I don't mean to alarm the public, but it's important that they know so that they contact their state legislators and tell them that they want this Bail Reform Act repealed.
Right.
Because judges now no longer have the discretion
Well, didn't they?
to hold people that could be dangerous.
Right. Didn't they change that, though? I mean, initially it was that way, but I thought they re-engineered some of that so that judges do have a discretion now.
They have not.
Okay.
They have not.
Because, we spoke with the police commissioner when this whole the bail reform law came out, and, somebody didn't just wake up one morning and say, I think it'd be a good idea to get rid of cash bail. They did it, and then there are a few cases, but there was the one highlighted case of a student, I believe he was a 16 or 17-year-old kid, who was accused. He wasn't even charged with it. He was accused of stealing a backpack. And he sat at Rikers Island for 3 years because he had a $1,000 bail that his family couldn't pay.
Well, that's just ridiculous. That kind of situation is a horrible example, but you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
True.
The judges are supposed to have discretion. I am confident with that. I believe in the separation of powers, that there should be an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a judiciary. And I think it's up to the individual judges to use their discretion and common sense when deciding what to do with people that come before them.
Right.
But if we have a bad judge, we got to get rid of that judge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously a judge that would let someone sit that long for stealing a backpack for the first time in their life, that's not the type of people that, I'm talking about. I'm talking about somebody who has committed crime after crime after crime.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about someone who would, commit a certain type of burglary, which is a very serious crime because you're invading someone's home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about hate crimes. I'm talking about not someone who shoplifts for the first time, but someone who's been arrested for shoplifting 26 times.
Right.
That person is a menace to society.
Yeah.
So, when I hear from store owners in Nassau County that they've stopped calling the police for shoplifting because it's out of control and the police can't do anything about it. The shoplifters get an appearance ticket and they're back the next day in the same store stealing again. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that was the first thing that stood out to me is, that the judges were basically cut out of the loop. I just thought why do we have judges then? I mean, if you're going to pass a law that says that they can't do anything, why are we paying them?
Exactly. So that's what I think needs to be addressed immediately, and we need to pay more attention to gang activity. Gang activity is on the increase in the region, and again, it's not a Nassau County problem. It's a Suffolk County, Nassau County, 5 boroughs, Westchester problem because we're seeing it all over the region. Yeah. So
I don't think gangs are going away anytime soon. Yeah.
Well, we have to do our best to limit their activity.
Yeah.
So we had a situation where in New Hyde Park, for instance, a month and a half ago, there was a shootout, 92 shell casings found in New Hyde Park. So that is something that is a major concern to me. And I know our new district attorney is going to be very, very tough on crime, tough but fair. And I hope to go up to Albany with her and try and convince the governor and the state legislature that they've made a colossal mistake.
Right.
And it's really making us less safe in our communities.
Right. Well, so you would advocate for getting rid of the law altogether or changing it?
No, I would get rid of it altogether. I think we have to hold judges accountable. I think we have to hold judges accountable that are too lenient, and I think we have to hold judges accountable who don't exercise common sense. That, you know, if you're an 18-year-old and you stole a backpack and this is the first crime you've committed, you know, in your life, and there's no threat to society, and there's no threat that you won't return to court, you know, to keep someone like that in jail for a long time. I agree with you. That is a very, very, very troubling result.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the hammer falls on the judge or the Department of Corrections in general. How can you have an inmate there for 3 years and nobody seems to know what his status is?
Well, it's definitely a breakdown in the system. And, you know, rather than point fingers, I think I would like to get, if it were happening in Nassau County, that one happened in New York City, I would try to get the warden of the jail together with the judiciary and figure out a reporting system so we can keep track of this. So, you know, they're not sitting in jail for a term that would be longer than if they were convicted. That's a terrible result.
Yeah, it really is. Well, I have some other questions about. Let's look at how are we doing with vaccines in Nassau County.
Well, vaccines are going very well. We have over 70% of the county vaccinated. I'm very proud of the fact that as a town councilman, I worked with the Hempstead Town Board with Supervisor Don Clavin, and we were the first municipality in New York State to have a mobile vaccination unit. So I'm very proud of that, and we're making that available for free. And we did that in conjunction with Mount Sinai Hospital. Mm-hmm. We also did a program of free testing with Northwell. Mm-hmm. So I'm very proud of how we handled that, and I would use that model in the county. However, I am not in favor of mandatory vaccinations for firefighters, police officers, first responders, and municipal workers. I think that is completely wrong.
Why is that? Why wouldn't you want the people who are charged with keeping us safe, making sure that they're keeping us safe as a community?
Well, that's a personal health choice between an individual and their physician, and the government shouldn't mandate that, number one. Number two is we ask these firefighters, police officers, municipal workers, first responders, we ask them to work during the height of the pandemic when the cases were off the charts, when the hospitalizations were off the charts, and there was no vaccine. So we allowed them to work in a much more dangerous situation when there was no vaccine, but we won't let them work now when basically it is not in a crisis situation and they've made a personal choice that they don't want to get the vaccine for their own personal health reasons. I find that completely wrong.
Right. Would you test them before they went to work?
Yeah, I believe in testing.
Okay.
Absolutely. Not every day, but I would believe in some kind of testing system. But again, that's something that would have to be worked out with the unions. We would have to make sure that we worked out a system that the unions could approve, because obviously we're in a partnership with them. They have collective bargaining, and you know, we just can't make rules willy-nilly. We have to sit down and talk to the unions and make sure that they're on board.
Right.
And I know we're way off on it. We're months away from children's vaccines being fully approved. They're now under emergency use authorization for Pfizer. But what are your initial thoughts on requiring it for schools once it has that full approval?
Listen, I believe in personal choice, and I think that requiring kids to get vaccinated is something that is in the domain of the parent. And I don't think it's a good idea for government to tell parents what they should do with their kids.
And then the other way to look at it are the vaccines for measles, mumps, rubella, all the other diseases are required right now to go to public schools.
Yeah, but I think it's a little different situation, because all of those vaccinations were done at a period of time when there was a long study done on the efficacy of those vaccinations. We're talking about vaccinations that were rushed to market for good reason. I'm not anti-vax at all. I've gotten the vaccination myself. But I believe that choices on what a person feels is best for their health is between that person and the individual. And in the circumstances of, as you say, the other measles and mumps, those were, again, long-term tests that were done to determine the safety of them. All of the vaccinations, and everybody will admit this right now, all the vaccinations that we have out there were rushed to market. And again, for good reason, but they were rushed to market, and some people might be apprehensive about that.
Yeah.
So
I don't agree with that term personally. I mean, these vaccines are the same technology that's being used for 20 years since SARS. And I don't, everything I've read, nothing has been rushed. All steps have been followed. That's just my own personal opinion. But you're entitled to yours, and we appreciate you giving us that on the air. Yeah. And I know your time
we can always agree to disagree.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And it will be a continuing saga, because I'm sure we'll hear from both sides on the pluses and the minuses. But there was one.
I don't like when government interjects themselves in a heavy-handed way.
Yeah.
We have a Constitution, and I strongly believe in the Constitution. And if you're going to talk about choice for a lot of other things, then, you have to be consistent.
Yep. Yeah, I understand that. There was one other issue that a lot of Nassau County people would be very interested in, and that's that the county fees that seem to be, like if here at Nassau Community College, if you get a parking ticket, there's a $50 fee that's added to the cost of your ticket. That's one of the fees. There's a tax map verification fee when you go to verify where your property is.
Bill, I just feed you for being on this radio show. So, what are your thoughts on the fees, Mr. Blakeman?
Yeah,
we have to take a look at the fees. There are some fees that seem unreasonable, and I'm going to look at it on a case-by-case basis with the legislature, because this is a partnership. I can't do things unilaterally. I have to sit down with the legislature, and we have to discuss it. So I will sit down with the legislature. We will go through each fee, and we will make a determination as to the reasonableness of the fee. There are some fees that seem like they're just completely unreasonable, and and a money grab. And I believe, again, that government should never be heavy-handed. I think government should try to be fair, try to be reasonable, and charging what in some cases are outrageous fees is something that, the tax map verification fee, how much is it actually costing the county to do the verification?
Right. Yeah.
I don't think it bears similarity with the fee. So
yeah, right. Well, you know what? I know that you're pressed for time. I don't want to keep you too long, because I'm sure you're busy. But I do, as I do with most of our guests, I get them to promise me that they'll come back soon and we can continue the conversation, because I'm sure you and I could sit at a table and talk for a good 3 or 4 hours about all the issues that come up in our minds.
Yes, it would be my pleasure. Unfortunately, since election night, I've been working 15 hours a day on the transition.
Right.
It's a big county, 1.4 million people, $3.5 billion budget.
Yeah.
A lot of moving parts. And I just want to make sure that on January 1st that I hit the ground running, and that we're ready to take over the reins of power and to administer government in a fair, just, and reasonable way.
And I guess next week we'll find out the results to see if that effectively happens. So
right.
I wish you luck in that count.
Yeah, good luck on the vote.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming, and I know your time is valuable. So good luck to you, and we'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Thanks.
All right, that was interesting.
Yep.
We wish Bruce Blakeman all the luck in the world because we are Nassau County.
Yeah, well, Laura Curran certainly isn't giving up the fight.
Yeah,
and it's interesting. I commented to you before the show. Laura Curran is very active on social media. She's very active on Twitter, 5-6 tweets a day.
Yeah,
and the last week since Election Day, she's had one tweet, and it was just like a standard happy or acknowledging Veterans Day yesterday.
Right.
She's been very radio silent, and I don't know if that's because she's trying to keep a low profile or she knows she lost, but she's just not giving up because there are the mail-in ballots to count. It's interesting.
Right. I didn't understand the difference between because they said the rest of the votes should have been counted this past Tuesday.
Right. That's when they were when they were due to be mailed in.
Right. But there's another set that I think it consisted of about 1,200 votes that were, because some are absentee ballots and some are mail-in. I don't know. There's a different headline for those. So when they decided they were going to wait until all the votes were in, they were including.
They're called affidavit ballots. I'm not exactly sure what that is and what makes it different, but
right.
there's 1,200 of those, and there's a law that says they couldn't be counted until next week. So rather than doing it in two parts, Nassau County said, nope, we're going to wait.
Right. To get one answer. Because if they counted the one set of votes first, everybody would still be hemming and hawing about, well, he didn't really win it yet. There's 1,200 votes out there. But
time will tell.
Yeah.
But he's been outspoken. There's been a bunch of articles on Newsday about different things he's planning to do that unfortunately we didn't get a chance to talk about now. Mm-hmm. I found it interesting about the signs issue. You may remember 4 years ago, Laura Curran took down all the signs that her predecessor had his name on.
Right.
And she said it's because she doesn't own the parks and whatever the signs are representing, the taxpayers do.
Yep.
And Blakeman said in Newsday that he's not ruling out putting his name back on all those signs. So that's going to cost taxpayers money if he decides to do that as well.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Every little thing costs the taxpayer, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious though. Every time we have an election, and okay, we're going to lower taxes. Are people in Nassau County dreaming to think that someone could appreciably lower their taxes?
And when you say appreciably, you mean a significant amount?
Yeah, right. Enough to for all this noise. Because when they finally somebody comes along and says, well, I cut your taxes. And when they realize, yeah, you cut my taxes about $10 a month.
That's what it equates to.
That's what, yeah.
But that times every house in Nassau County is millions.
Well, there you go. I mean, and we talked about I love the illustration. Laura Curran said she's going to give everybody $375. And you say, well, that's not really going to change my life. But it amounted to a $100 million giveaway.
Which she claims is coming from a budget surplus in the county.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. So, for a politician to come along and use this as an election thing, I'm going to cut your taxes $100 million. I can imagine the whole crowd going, ooh, that's a lot. That's big. But it's not. Because when you spread it out over all the citizens in Nassau County, again, it's $375, which might get you a decent meal at a good restaurant for 4 people.
Are you asking me out?
Only if you're buying.
I'll take my $375 and your $375, and we'll go to a really nice restaurant.
Hey. But, so you know what I mean? It's, I don't know. It's deceiving. It's very deceiving. Mm-hmm. The thing I hear from Nassau County people probably most often is that it's not necessarily the property taxes that's killing them. It's the school taxes. And the only person that we've ever interviewed that was, looking into rearranging that somehow, because the way we do our school taxing, we're the only ones in the country that do it that way. Mm. Nobody else does it this way. And school budgets go up every year, every 2 years.
Basically.
And if a school budget doesn't pass, there's some kind of algorithm that gets inserted and installed, and it winds up passing anyway later on.
Well, they change some numbers here and there, and then they do a second vote.
Well, and then the first thing they do cut, if they're going to cut money, is going to be sports and the arts.
Yep, arts, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know. Are we being? I would like to get Senator Brooks on. We're going to get him on again because I'd like to see, how he's faring with battling up in Albany for those things. And also Tom Swazi for the salt, because he said no salt, no deal.
No salt, no deal, and we're coming up on December 31st. So I wonder if I've been following that closely, because obviously that affects my pocket as well as yours, Bill. But I'm only in my house less than 5 years, so there's plenty of interest that could be taken off my taxes, which is being capped at $10,000 thanks to the Trump tax plan.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we didn't really get to talk much about the reassessment too much, and how he wants to fix it.
Yeah.
Is fixing it meaning going back to the way it was? I don't know.
Yeah. I was just wondering, and again, we didn't have enough time, but I was just wondering if to undo Laura Curran's version of the assessment, can that thing just be tweaked the way it is? And my belief at this point in time is that no, it can't. You would have to reassess. You'd have to do it again.
I feel like someone needs to come door to door and be like, all right, you have 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. We're going to give you this standard number.
Yeah. I mean, people shudder when their neighbor has a construction crew come in and they're
is it raising the whole town or the whole street?
Well, exactly. They look at that and see a construction crew working on a house for a year. Now it's got another floor. It's got, the swimming pool, blah, blah, blah. And this next door neighbor is saying, my taxes are going to go up because he spent that much money on his house.
It's possible.
Yeah. But anyway, let's hope. Let's hope, and we'll see how it turns out.
Exactly.
When will we know the final vote?
Supposedly they're going to start counting next Tuesday, so I'm hoping, however long it takes to insert 12,000 Scantrons into a machine.
Right.
But then the question is, will one or the other finally concede, or are they going to contest the vote, and how long is this going to go on for? I mean, it has to be decided by January 1st. Someone has to lead the county. So,
right.
And Thanksgiving's coming up, so I'd like to know who it is by Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Right. Be nice.
Absolutely. Bill, thanks for joining us. We appreciate. Thank you for having me specifically fill in for John this week, and it was great to talk to Bruce Blakeman, who may end up being the next county executive.
Yeah, he could be the guy.